بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد إن معه جبل خبز ونهر ماء فيأمر السماء فتمطر والأرض فتنبت Dajjal will come and control the reserves of food and water on earth. The people of Iman have the firasat, the vision, the foresight which Allah has endowed them with, and a'mal-wise, asbab-wise, they are prepared. Justice is in Akhirah. Yawmul Qiyaamah is the place for justice. Allah's system and His hikmah and wisdom knows why certain events will unfold. But if you expect the world to be fair with you because you are fair, then you are living in a fool's paradise. It's like expecting a lion not to eat you because you didn't eat him. So the Dajjal will come to do what he has to do. Either you are prepared or you are casualty. Give but don't allow yourself to be used. Love but don't allow your heart to be abused. Trust but don't be naive. Listen to others, but don't lose your own voice. So, in today's times, a parent will plan their child's future, their child's destiny. They'll map out the ideal child for dunya, for worldly benefit, for worldly progress, for worldly advancement. But for deen, it's not in the equation. It's not part of the plan. Forget our kids. My own deen, my wife's deen, I have not planned that. My own akhirah, my jannah, my preservation in the akhirah and protection from Jahannam. The West, one concept, for example, they emphasize is a retirement plan. So this retirement plan is firstly, a person doesn't know if they'll live so long. Secondly is, what will your needs be at that time? Thirdly, your health condition. So the algorithm, the odds are against you, yet they've asked, they've encouraged, they've promoted your retirement planning. So how much planning people who fall for this make? What portfolios, what investment schemes, what agendas, what planning they've implemented, and how real it will be and how the need of it may be. So this may have been emphasized, but what about your retirement in the grave? What about retirement on the day of Qiyaamah? What about retirement in Jannah? What about retirement for Jannatul Firdaus? So where have we gone? Every person based on his perception believes what he's doing is right. And until we don't match our life, our family's lives with Quran and Sunnah, we will be in the dark, so much darkness that we won't even believe that we are in the dark. So this is part of the deception. So a person needs to realize where they are, where am I going to, and where's my destination. Like there was a story of an elderly priest who invited a young priest over for dinner. So the youngster couldn't help notice that this elderly priest had employed an extremely attractive housekeeper. So you're a priest first, and you got a supermodel that's tending to your needs. It was very suspicious whether it was a relationship purely based on employment or there was something else happening on the side. So just by the way, he brought up the point, and elder priest said, no, nothing, don't worry about this here, it's just part of, she needed employment, I decided to help her, and that's where we are. So 1 week later, the housekeeper couldn't find a silver gravy ladle, and she missed it since the young priest came to visit. So she told the senior priest, I have doubts, I think so, he has stolen it. So the elderly priest said, not possible, it's a simple ladle, nothing of value, why would he take it? But just to clear the air, he wrote a letter and said, dear father, I'm not saying you did take my silver gravy ladle, and I'm not saying you did not take it, but it has been missing since you came to my house. Do you know anything about it? So a day later, the young priest wrote a letter back, dear father, I'm not saying you do sleep with your housekeeper, and I'm not saying you do not sleep with her, but if you were sleeping in your own bed, you'd have found your silver gravy ladle by now. If you were sleeping in your own bed, you would have found it by now. So sometimes we are in a darkness and we need to come out of it. So much darkness that even qabuliyat, sometimes tashkil jamaats come, they make tashkil and say, who's ready for life? Nobody gives a name. Okay, say Ameen. People don't even want to say Ameen because we're worried we may get accepted. Give our whole life for deen. So we're so attached to dunya, even the mawaqi and the opportunities of acceptance, we become very worried and we become apprehensive. So Thanwi rahimahullah, you see something ajeeb with regard to this. He said that people even fear becoming pious. Why? Because if you're going to become pious and you're going to lose out on all the worldly pleasures, you can't go to those places, you can't do this here, you can't do this here. So Guna is so beloved, we're afraid of piety. So Hazrat, you say, okay, make an intention, I don't want to become pious, no problem, done. But the least you should do is go spend some time with the ulama haq, the mashayikh, the sulaha, those people who have gotten close proximity to Allah. Then this sahbat will open up and a person will have automatic interest in what they should be having. And then you'll get such pleasure and ecstasy in deen, you'll forget the pleasures and the ecstasy and the enjoyments of this world. So sahbat is a very important ingredient in the life of a believer. Moving on to the systems which is preparing the coming of Dajjal. The Reset the Table was a document published by the Rockefeller Foundation. And they said that the pandemic had revealed some serious problems in the US food system. And interesting enough, this document was published 1 month after the WEF announced its plans for the Great Reset. And the contributors of the foundation's paper were WEF members. So from healthy diet to sustainable food, but natural not mentioned, organic not mentioned, grass-fed not mentioned. So if you go back, they've been promoting, and we'll get into detail inshallah of the concept of how they're going to solve the world's problem. So like prophets, self-proclaimed designers of the future. They foreseen natural disasters. They know things before it happens. So no, they're not prophets, they're not sent, they're not special. They're planning. So they want to transform, firstly, primarily the US food system, and that's obviously have a knock-on effect globally, which was published by the Rockefeller Foundation on the 28th of July 2020. So firstly, they started with COVID and hunger and nutrition crisis, but you must remember that this food shortages, empty shelves, was not at the time where it was prevalent. So they just used the pandemic and said it is connected to the diet. Even the deaths in page 3 of the document, they say 94% of deaths from COVID-19 were the underlying condition was diet related. So where did diet come and connect to COVID-19? So they're saying that we need a reset. They said the green revolution. So where they've got a hand in the seeding, they've got in the scaling, and the system is on emphasizing the staple grains, and they say nutrient-rich foods will create these foods. So na'udhu billah, they become the Dajjals, the gods of the era. And then you'll be pest resistant, you'll be drought resistant, you'll be rain resistant. So these chemicals, these herbicides, these pesticides, and they're saying they don't want to deplete the soil, they become humanitarians, we don't want the overuse of water. So these prescription programs have been promoted, it's like a sermon, over decades. And the pandemic was the tip of the iceberg, and now we've seen the iceberg. So firstly, they need to seize control of the supply chain, and we've discussed that in detail. But if we look at how they plan to roll this out, so around 42 million Americans lack broadband access, and direct online, they want to shift people now. The globe, they want to channel the globe onto online enrollment, online purchasing of food, farm to consumer purchasing, telemedicine, teleconsultation, and link the entire education, finance sectors into this one monopoly. And this is obviously just to monitor you and track you. So the entire supply chain is in one world order, one world government. And that's why a WEF member, Henry Kissinger, used to say, who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control the whole continent. Whoever controls money controls the world. Now they're saying you need to have a healthy diet, and that is eating weeds and bugs, drinking reclaimed sewage. And July 2021 WF article where they describe giving insects and how insects should be part of our food system. So they want by 2050 to feed 2 billion people, and they are promoting insect farming for food as well as animal feed. And they're saying it's environmentally friendly, it's a solution for the impending food crisis. And thanks to our new technologies, our AI, the Internet of Things, this is the turning point for humanity. We're able to introduce, industrialize the breeding of insects. So that's the future, and you could do some research, go on to your startups. Why insect, for example? uh, they've got 300 technology patents, and it's an AI driven agricultural process. It's fully automated. It's basically insect farming, and they able to produce 100,000 tons of insect products a year. So they're saying insects are credible and efficient alternative protein source, because protein, right? You want to replace protein. So we require less resources. There's no need for this conventional breeding method. It is not accurate. It is limited. It is restricted. It doesn't have the healthy ingredients. It is not highly digestible. It is suitable for senior citizens, for senior nutrition, and on and on and on. They are promoting this here. And they're saying that now this old system which the world survived on is not natural. It is using a lot of water. It is polluting the atmosphere. So your burgers in the future will be insect based, and proteins now will be from insects, and lab grown foods, genetically engineered crops, and they are going to save the planet. But if you look at it, the word organic does not appear once in the entire report. The word natural had nothing to do with any natural foods. They just used the word natural disasters. Although in the whole report, the word healthy is mentioned 33 times, sustainable 17 times. There's no mention of grass-fed. So this is all building up to the 2030 agenda. And as described previously, this is the consumption of the entire food supply chain. And sabotage of the system, culling of herds of cattle. So Klaus, who's the founder of the WEF, in May 2022 in a meeting in Davos, said that the future doesn't happen, it is built by us, by a powerful community in this room. So they believe they have the right to decide the fate of humanity, the right to decide what's best for humanity. But whether you like it or not, they will implement it. You need to find solutions. Otherwise, a future with smart multiplexes, no private spaces, no private ownership. Everything you do is recorded, tracked, punished or rewarded. And they will have an algorithm to decide who's a good citizen and who's not. So when the food system does fall apart, they've got their lab-grown synthetic genetically engineered foods. They've got their massive insect farms. So we need to become more self-sufficient. We need to create an alternative parallel food system outside their control, outside their system. Likewise, water. How do you purify water? If there are river streams nearby you, how can you take from that? Boreholes, do you have a borehole? Which borehole systems are there? Your filtration systems, your own pumps, and harnessing the potential of the rain, collecting all the water, purifying that same water, using it. Then with regards to your food supply as well, whether you're going to go onto freeze-dried foods which have a shelf life of 25 years or more, then canned foods or staple dry foods, and the methods of preservation. So how your rice, your flour, you can extend the life, it can last 5, 10, 15, 20 years as well. Vacuum sealing, oxygen absorbers, where does this come in the equation? Then energy is very important as well. So between gas geysers to solar geysers to gas freezers, solar run systems. Your lights, how do you optimize, change your lighting systems to LEDs which use less energy? Wind power, harnessing the power of the wind as well. So to scale up on alternate energy and not relying on these systems. Then for cooking your food, whether your food you're using gas or you get your solar cookers, etc. Then gardening, so to produce everything at home and in your control. How do you preserve? If there's a harvesting time, you've got extra produce, how do you preserve it for longer storage? So food storage skills, canning, pickling, to learn the skill and how to increase the life. Likewise, different methods, fermented vegetables, increase in the life. It is known that the health benefits of and it was a method used in the past for food preservation and technology, which is around for thousands of years. So all these alternate methods we need to start learning and implementing. The amal for today is when the Imam says غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, to say Ameen. Likewise, to bring Ameen in part of our routine when the Imam, when we hear somebody making dua, to say Ameen. ما حسدكم اليهود على شيء. The Jews are not so envious of you with regards to anything. ما حسدكم على آمين, as they are with regards to saying Ameen. فأكثروا من قولها. You should therefore say Ameen in abundance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq of making amal. Ameen. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.